All righty, it is noon. It is February 24th. We're in the last full week of February here, and super excited for another real estate update. Mark Newstater, eXp Realty, Jaden Bax from Avenue Financial. Jaden, is that wind blowing pretty heavy up in Crossfield today?
Yeah, well, look, so I've actually already done a drive down the highway into Calgary this morning, and it was blowing the whole way. So
Yeah.
yes, yeah, everywhere between Crossfield and Calgary is a windy winter wonderland.
Yeah, I know. I think tomorrow's the day. Like it's February 25th tomorrow, and we're going to be on the plus side. And let's hope that it kind of continues throughout all of March and we can melt that snow again.
Yeah,
But anyway, let's talk about real estate. There's so much going on every day. Everything changes. In fact, when I pulled the stats this morning at 8:30, I actually double checked them at 10:30, and they had changed. So because it goes in the last 7 days, right? So I actually changed the stats because we had additional listings, we had additional sales. So let's show them to you and tell you what this means to you as a buyer, as a seller. So we have our new listings at 429, 530 sales. So very similar top two rows to last week. Our pendings jumped up though significantly to 330. So that means our sold plus pendings at 860 and a net difference of plus 431. So that is the highest it's been, I'm going to say, all year. Really, really strong again on the sales side of things. But again, we're seeing a lot of listings hitting the market. It's not that we don't have listings, we just have too many sales if you're a buyer. If you're a seller, you're loving it. I just listed a property in Canyon Meadows this morning and had a call. It's like, can we send you an offer? It's like, no, we're actually reviewing offers on Sunday. So, that is, and 7 showings booked already. We'll have a lot more by the time Sunday's done. So that's another thing we can talk about if you're a seller is what's the right strategy? Well, there's always pros and cons to every strategy. In this particular case, we are leaving it open until Sunday, and then we're going to review any offers that may come in on Sunday. But I digress. Price reduced. This is interesting. So we've seen a sharp increase here in price reductions over the past couple of weeks. Now, you'd say to me, well, Mark, that's only 108. Well, we have a total of 1,033 detached listings. So a full 10% of them had price reductions. And those are the actual, again, oh, thanks. Put that comment on the screen here in a second. Those are the actual active listings, right? Those are not pending. So of the active listings, we have 10% of them doing price reductions. Why is that? Well, I hate to use the word greedy, but I think people are being maybe a little bit unrealistic about that initial list price. That initial list price still has to be right because otherwise we'd have 0 price reductions, right? That only makes sense. So watch your initial list price. I always say the best marketing you can do is having a great list price at the beginning. And the photos and the measurements and the 3D tours and the videos don't make a dumber buyer, right? So we have to get that pricing right at the beginning, and that's what I do as your realtor. So detached listings 1,033, total of 2,329 listings, a moderate increase from last week. So that's really the story for Calgary single family detached. And I had a listing, as I mentioned during last week's update, a condo listing. So if you watch this show every week, I'll give you an update there on the second day on the market, accepted offer. It's in conditions right now, and I would say it's pretty likely going to be firm sold. So that is what is going on with this past week, and let's compare it to last year. So a week ago last year, we had 480 total sales, 747 new listings, 4,438 active listings, and 374 pendings. Move a column over. This past week ending yesterday, we had 879 sales, 1,157 new listings. That's great. Now, that was as of yesterday, and that would include pendings, I believe, is how I've correlated that, and that's why the number does not correlate to my number. Only 3,280 active listings. But again, that number is going up. It's starting to catch up a little bit to last year's numbers. 982 pending deals as of yesterday and the week leading up to yesterday. I mean, that's just, that number in itself kind of tells you what's going on, right? So median price, massive increase of 21%, average price 15%. Days on market, that's what I always like to look at as well, is 22. So half of what we were last year. And why is that? Because we're seeing these offers coming in. You know, the house that I listed today, well, technically it will, if it sells unconditional on Sunday, you know, it'll be 4 days on the market, but realistically, you know, you're selling in your first weekend. So that is the story from my end of things, Jaden, and moving on over to interest rates.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that price reduction point that you made quick there. A good friend of mine lives in a desirable community in Airdrie. His neighbor was talking about, you know, we're going to list, you know, this market is crazy. We're going to list for 1.33 million. All the houses on the street are selling for between 9 and 975. Maybe there's a little bit of that you know, the seller out there thinking that they could really make a big buck on this market. That's not necessarily the case. You still gotta, you know, work with the realtor and know what is reasonable, right? So
absolutely.
yeah, and so rates continue to go up slightly. Still great discounts on prime. We are about 10 days away from probably what will be our first rate hike of 2022. So anybody in a variable, just be prepared. You're going to have your rate go up by a quarter point. With all of my variable clients, you know, the conversations I'm having now and the conversations I have when I place them in that product is that there, you know, you should likely be spending more than your minimum payment, right? So if you can bump it up to what the fixed payment of the day would have been, and rather than choosing the fixed, you're hitting the principal in the meantime. So for those clients who've taken that advice, and not, you know, people forget about that around closing day, so not everybody has done that, but for those clients who've taken that advice, this quarter point difference is not going to make any difference in their payments. Likely, if prime goes up 1% this year, it will not make any difference in their payments. Prime would have to go up about 1.5% for the majority of my clients for it to make any difference in their payments, right? So, you know, even though this is a big thing, all it really means is that you're putting a little bit less extra against the principal, right? So really make sure that when you're talking to your mortgage broker, your bank, if variable is something that you're going after, to have those conversations, because there's a way to kind of absorb those rate hikes before they happen by being aggressively paying down your mortgage.
Okay, sounds good. And talk about, you know, with everything going on in the world right now, and obviously our thoughts are with the people of Ukraine. Does that affect interest rates?
Maybe. And that's,
Yeah,
I think that's the big thing, right? So we have a lot of clients who are you know, wanting to maybe break their mortgages early to lock into today's rate, so they have those relatively low rates for the next 5 years, because in their opinion, that, you know, things are just going to keep going up and up and up. But big international events like this that are on the other side of the world can have an impact on the financial system in Canada as well. And so when somebody tells you that interest rates are going to be way up in 2 years, nobody knows that.
yeah,
Nobody thought that COVID was going to crater interest rates over the last 2 years, right? So that's
yeah.
one of the things. You know, make the best decision for you now in this moment. If you're comfortable paying that penalty to break, and the penalty isn't exorbitant, and you want the comfort of having that sub 3% interest rate for the next 5 years, absolutely go ahead, but don't do it on the basis of a potential, you know, 5%, 6% interest rate, like the sky is falling kind of thing, because nobody can predict that. And in Canada, we're very likely not heading there anytime in the near future.
Okay, sounds good. I'm just going to roll back to the stats here again if you're just joining us or if you're watching it later. So that's the stat picture for this week. Biggest net difference that we've seen really all year. Detached listings continue to, you know, slowly increase. And I'm getting questions from Jaden and I work with a lot of relocation clients. They're relocating from Winnipeg, actually. And their question is, when will the inventory start to get better? Well, we're slowly starting to see that. We're February 24th. I would suspect my guess would be that in the next week to 2 weeks, we're really going to start to see our inventory pick up again. Whether the sales continue, that like an interest rate question in 2 years from now is virtually impossible to answer, but there's still very, very strong demand. So as always, if you're a seller, you're seeing what's happening in the market right now. There's still a lot of activity. Great time to still chat. Get it on the market. As I always say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. I didn't say that, somebody else did, but let's use it. And we'll use that for listings as well. If you're a buyer, listen, you got to be on it. You got to be into those homes, the first day, second day they're on the market, especially if they're in a hot area. I use the cream puff analogy. If you think it's a cream puff, and a cream puff is a house that looks great, shows great area, great street, lots of updates, somebody else, especially the way the market is right now, is going to think it's a cream puff as well, and they're going to write an offer. So you just have to be prepared for that. You have to be prepared. And during my extensive buyer process that I go through, I explain what's happening in the market. I explain what you can expect. I explain the whole process. So feel free to reach out to me and book a time to chat more about buying, selling. And of course, Jaden's got all your mortgage information as always. So you all have a great week, and we will see you in March.